my solution for that problem is $30,000. Then the way I frame it up is I would say, Wendell, you know, you got $300,000 worth of problems here. Would you be willing and able to invest $30,000 to solve your $300,000 problem? Is that fair? I'm not asking him to commit to doing anything. I'm not even saying necessarily that's the price, but I want to get an idea that I want them to weigh something in their mind, because oftentimes what happens is salespeople present, throw a number out, hold their breath, hope it works. And oftentimes it doesn't, and then it becomes this argument about why what we do is valuable and why you should hire us, and it's this uphill. And once you start getting an argument with a client, who's going to lose? Yeah, we're going to lose every time. So I'm just trying to get a gauge, is that fair? You know, now if they pass out in their chair, they grab their chest, you know, probably, you know, that something's not in the ballpark, and I need to kind of spend a little more time understanding kind of what's really their ability to solve this problem, or is it an important problem to solve? And you know, this is where, again, we kind of help them find the money. And I know, like, when I had a client that for them, they wanted to get about an 8-to-1 return on doing some sales training. And so what we ended up doing, those after 9 months, they actually got a 22-to-1 return. So for every dollar they invested in training, we gave them back $22. How often would you guys do that transaction? Like over and over and over, right? You know? And so, you know, I'm his best friend, right? And so this is where we help them find the money. And then from there, I want to find out kind of where are we at in the process. And if you were here several months ago, one of the sales tips that I did was on the scale of 1 to 100, which many of you may have been familiar with, some of you may not have been. But this is kind of how it sounds. So what I want to find out, and Wendell, can I role play with you just real quick? Okay, great. So Wendell, you know, we've covered a lot of things, kind of like just see where we're at. So if you imagine a scale of 1 to 100, 100 means you want to sign a contract right now. 1 means this isn't the direction we want to go. Where do you find yourself on that scale?
Gee, right now about 50.
Okay, you're 50, great. So what do you need to see here or experience to go from a 50 to a 100?
Really, I've got to understand the payback.
Okay. All right, so let's suppose that we kind of go through the payback, the numbers work out, and you're satisfied with that. You were a 50 on that scale. Now where would you be?
That would move me up to considerably closer to the 100. I would say I'd be about 85 because I have some other...
Okay, great. So you're an 85. So what else would you need to see here or experience to go from an 85 to a 100?
I just think we need to go through a process of understanding exactly where we're going and what the benefit is.
Okay, so if we outline the process, we kind of work on that together, and you're satisfied with where that's going to go and that that's going to be feasible, you weren't 85, now where would you be on that scale?
In that case, I'd be very close to 100.
Okay. Like how close? Like a number?
Like 95.
95, okay, great. What else would you need to see here or experience to go from 95 to 100?
Well, we have to look at the process and how we achieve the training and how we get it done.
Okay, all right, great. So let's say we do that, that checks out, and you're satisfied with what we come up with. You were a 95, now where would you be?
Look, if we answered all those questions satisfactorily, it'd be at 100.
100%?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. What do you want to do now?
What do I want to do now?
Yeah.
Well, what would you suggest?
Okay, all right, great. So it sounds like a dumb question because he's probably just going to repeat what he just said. Which, well, hey, you know, we got to work the plan out and we got to go through those things. That what he just said becomes my presentation because that's the stuff he's concerned about. He's not concerned about. He didn't even ask me for referrals or anything. He doesn't even know that I know what I'm doing, right? So if I start throwing out, well, hey, I can give you some referrals. Now I bring up another thing that now it's going to be part of his decision making. So he's told me exactly what he needs to basically to do business together. And so at that point, then I'm going to deliver on whatever he said. We'll schedule the next meeting and kind of go on from there. So those are sort of 3 areas, again, with questions that I wanted to share for you guys to be thinking about. And again, the first part is to look at questions to ask yourself. And how can you be relevant? I spend a lot of time reading Wall Street Journal, Business Week. You know, I'm online. I look at the economic indicators that come out. I noticed, you know, I told you I was meeting with Yum tomorrow. They released their earnings report yesterday, and they're doing great with their China expansion, but their U.S. growth is sluggish. So I want to come up with some questions related to that. She's going to think I'm a genius, okay? And all I did was read a little bit, and you can do the same thing when you come up with relevant questions. So I want to craft, in fact, I'm going to spend time today crafting what are those specific questions that are going to be relevant to this conversation that we're going to have, because they've been working with one of our competitors for a long time. And so it's a big risk to look at even considering somebody else, right? And so I want to demonstrate, build that credibility through the quality of my questions. So I ask myself a lot of questions first. Then talking to my existing clients and find out things from them about how would you describe what we do. That's a great way to help with your networking when you let other people describe what's your service. How would they tell people what you do? And then lastly, having a process when you go into a sales meeting with sort of a questioning plan. Most people have a presentation outlined and it might be really slick and you might have it on an iPad and it might look really great, but I don't meet people a lot that have a questioning plan where you go and you actually have it sort of written out of kind of the types of questions you want to ask. Because I want to be able to focus on body language and notice kind of what's going on. And if you were here last month for Troy Stufflebean's Hunter Killer Sales Talk, so one of the things he did masterfully was talking about how to navigate these different landscapes and to be scanning the environment for what's going on, for relevant information that you need to be able to do that. I'd rather be able to focus on that and not worry about what's my next question. Well, what am I going to do next? I don't know what the next step in the process is. So I want to have that mapped out. So like I said, we're going to have a strategy group after this meeting today for a little bit. Some of us are going to sit around and talk about these and other ideas. But I think we might have time for a few questions or something like that.
Yeah.
Or how are we on time? Okay, so what are some questions maybe that you have, maybe relative to what we talked about or something relative to your business? Don.
I'll go ahead and give you a question. How long did it take you to be the professional that you are, and so that you can kind of pass that on, and, with the time element for the students that are here? In other words, you just didn't become this overnight.
Right.
So how long have you been working on being the polished person that you are?
Sure, since about 1987,
okay.
probably. So I was in high school, and that's kind of when I started studying sales, and it was like I always thought it was important. And I had a teacher, my government teacher actually was. He shared with me, he said it's important that you get good grades, but communicators rule the world. And if you can't communicate, you're only going to be able to go so far. But if you can communicate, you can really accomplish anything. So he got me into public speaking, and then got me turned on to like selling and studying selling. And so I'd go to seminars, and a lot of it again is just through not doing it properly. In the beginning of my sales career, I didn't really have good coaches or mentors. I had people like that were sort of that stereotypical used car sales personality, and that was all I knew as far as how you did things. So I was Mr. Presentation. I could present, but I wasn't getting results. So just over the years, just being willing to take to get mentors, to find other people that are experts, and then be willing to do some different behavior as well, because a lot of this has been uncomfortable. I mean, in the beginning, asking questions wasn't comfortable, and then just sort of practice. And then being willing to learn and grow. And I think that's one of the things I love about the Louisville Sales Leaders is this is a great place to come, not only to meet people and network, but to kind of learn about what are the things that people do to be successful and to grow.
One of the questions tailgating on top of that one, and that is for the benefit of the students, how important is it for the students to mentor with people that, like yourself and others who have been doing this for a while, to find out really if that's what they want to do? How important?
Well, I think it's key. I had somebody challenge me several years ago, and he said, "Eric, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And so after I described the 5 people I spent time with, he proceeded to tell me how much money I made probably, and he was close, and kind of what goals I probably had. And it's not that I had to get rid of my friends, but if I wanted to have a certain lifestyle or to accomplish a certain level of success, it was helpful to meet other people, And so, to me, the mentorship is just a key thing to find people. A lot of it is not so much the knowledge they have, but it's more the attitude. I met a guy that, this was probably 10 years ago. He retired from a company. He's probably the most successful salesperson I've ever known. He made $14 million his last year in sales. And the guy was just incredible. But as I started working with him, he was writing a book. And I realized he's not different than me. And that's what he kept telling me. He's like, how come you're not making $1 million a month? And I'm like, well, I make considerably less than that, But a lot of it is about you're around these people that are successful, and so it's just an attitude, and it's hard to teach that. So he never taught me, these techniques. It was more just like, hey, believe in yourself. Why can't you go sell a $10 million account? Why can't you get a meeting? He would say, why can't you meet with David Novak? That would be his thing. He would be like, why can't you get that meeting? And being around those people, it just elevates our own abilities. It's, when you look at, great athletes, I hate to use Michael Jordan, he's been used a million times, but he really did great at elevating the level of play of everybody else, and helped create some amazing success. So.
Thank you, Eric. We really appreciate how much you talk in the microphone.
Oh, great. We are going to do that.
And I don't think we really need one, but anyway, that absolutely was fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And since it's now time to sell, Eric, we have one of our